Dede, Chewy's walking away. Dede, as I start, Dede, where's she going? Dede Allen, go ahead. Hi and welcome to Behind the Hype.
I don't know. Why is there
With me, your host, as always, Brian Tressel.
Why is there 3 glasses of water?
I didn't get any glasses of water. You came over with 1, 2, and then 3, and I just didn't question it.
Okay.
It worked out well. Me, your host, is always Brian Dressel, as I already just said, and with me, as always, is Chewy Darso.
Hi.
And Jonathan Hardesty.
Yeah, I'm around.
Yeah.
I'm making sure we stay hydrated during this crisis.
It's very important. I have no idea who drank out of this before me, which is also very important to not do, but here we go.
You or me.
I now have Corona. So, whoo! This week, 3rd week of Dede Allen, famed editor extraordinaire, if you will, and we're here to talk about a movie that has very little editing in it. So,
the end. We did it. We talked about it.
Yeah, a little bit of a different episode. But we'll do the best we can. We're here to talk about The Wiz. Sidney Lumet's very different take on The Wizard of Oz. And by very different, I mean pretty much the same. More or less.
Yeah.
Did they say it's supposed to be the land of Oz, right?
Yeah, they still say Oz.
Okay.
I mean, it's clearly New York. I mean, the Twin Towers have a bridge in between them that shouts out different colors to wear every day, or like every 5 minutes. But otherwise, it's
gold.
New York. I would never be caught dead. Red. This movie has actually quite a bit to talk about, just not a lot of editing. But we'll get to all of that here shortly. John, I believe it's your turn to say everything that happened in this movie as quickly as you can. I bet you can do it real fast if you do it the way that I would.
Yeah, so Dorothy and her dog Toto get taken to Oz, except Oz is New York with Twin Towers with a microphone on there that tells different colors. She encounters a lot of crazy people. An interesting take on the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, and she defeats the Wicked Witch with water. And if this sounds familiar, it's because it's the exact plot from The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. That's all I would have done, is just it's The Wizard of Oz. Anyhow, it's obviously a different version of Wizard of Oz.
Very much so.
Predominantly, if not entirely, black cast. Very different take on like the characters a little bit, but also kind of not. Like Scarecrow's still very much a scarecrow, still looking for a brain, but it's a little bit more literal. Tin Man still wants a heart, but it's not really like a heart so much as like I need something beating my chest. I want to feel things. Cowardly Lion just wants some balls. So that one's pretty much the same. But otherwise, everything is kind of similar.
Yeah.
Toto takes a real backseat in this movie.
He's the reason she runs out into the snow.
That's true. When she meets her Snow-nado.
Yeah. And whisks her away to Oz somehow.
Yeah, which I think is just like a few blocks south of where she lives.
Yeah.
Or north. I don't know. I don't really know New York.
Geography, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a different part of New York. It's a different borough, is all I'm saying. Maybe they went from Brooklyn to Manhattan. I don't know New York. I've only been there like 3 times.
As an LA person, that tracks for New York.
Yeah. Well, they took Barham until it turned into Olive, because they didn't want to deal with like just the 101. But
I know that there's one street kind of like we were in Chicago when we realized anyone lived off like the blue line and we lived off the red line. It was like, oh, I'm never seeing you.
So we're not friends. Got it.
Right.
I know there's places like that in New York.
I live right off the Morse Red Line stop.
Oh yeah, see you never.
I don't know if we should date.
You seemed cool, but then you said that.
And then you married me.
And then I married you. I also lived off the red line. I don't know what I'm bitching about. I was way too nerdy to live off the blue line where all the cool kids lived.
No. Did they?
Yeah, they did. All the cool kids moved to the blue line, and all the kids were like, no, I'm going to be practical because I need to get places, lived off the red line. Take that, blue liners.
Yeah, I decided I wanted to be
And
practical
their
rather
Logan
than cool.
Square apartments.
Yeah. Ooh, I live in Logan Square. Yeah, you and every other hipster with a pair of wood glasses. Oh, fuck.
To be
How the shoes have
such
turned.
a big tangent. Wood glasses didn't come into style until we were in LA.
You mean until I started wearing them? Thank you.
Hey, I wore faux wood sunglasses before you.
Oh, faux, did you?
Oh.
So the Wiz!
It's quite the tangent.
That was a weird one. Good thing
But you know what? That works
in.
because this movie is kind of weird too.
Yeah, here's the thing. So let's just kind of start with where we came to from it. So I saw this movie when I was a kid because I got really obsessed with The Wizard of Oz for a little bit there. So I saw this one, Return to Oz, and obviously The Wizard of Oz countless times. This one I probably saw the least. Nah, probably Return to Oz. Return to Oz creeped me the fuck out. Whereas The Wiz is just kind of weird. But I remember watching it as a kid a number of times, and it could, like, my sister is a huge Michael Jackson fan. That might have something to do with it. I don't know. But either way, I saw it a bunch of times as a kid. Never again, from kid through adolescent, teenager, young adult, 30-year-old waste of time that I am now. Never since child have I seen it again. And it was an entertaining rewatch. Totally not what I remembered at all. Had you guys seen it before?
I had never seen it. I knew basically nothing about it. Other than it was what everyone described to me as the black version of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And I was always like, I don't know what that means. So there's black
and now
people,
you do.
Yeah, there's black people in it. And? And now I'm like, okay.
Pretty good movie.
Yeah.
John, what about you?
Yeah, never had heard of it except for, hey, Black Wizard of Oz, and just seeing the poster around. But I didn't know who was in it. I didn't know that Michael Jackson was in it. So when I sat down to watch this a couple days ago from recording, I was very surprised at every detail that came up on IMDb and as I watched it.
And it's also like we'll start with how we have been with these things, which is the editing, which will be probably the shortest conversation of the day because there's very little editing in this thing.
Yeah.
Had I remembered how little editing there was, I probably wouldn't have put this on the short list for movies for us to pick from for this month.
It's for me, I had the problem where I enjoyed everything that was happening, but everything just lasted a little too long.
Everything. This movie's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and it'd be a great hour 45.
Like the very beginning, when she gets to Wiz, the entire sequence with the graffiti people it felt too long. And then when you finally get into Emerald City, and then you go through this thing of green, then red, then gold, and it's just like, okay.
It was one of those
we don't need this.
I'm getting ready to review this movie for our podcast, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, if they do a fourth color, I'm turning this fucking thing off.
I was just like, I would have cut it halfway through red. I'd be like, I get the point. I get it.
Yeah, I paused after red and took a break. Because I was like, I need a break from this. I'm kind of bored.
So,
oh my god, that scene. The movie it overstays its welcome in many, many different sequences. That one is chief amongst them. Like, what the fuck?
So I just started falling asleep.
It was rough, man. Rough.
And
it doesn't help too that like for all the set design and the costume design of that scene, it's not lit very well. From at least like from
it was dark.
It was dark, hard to see. The colors didn't pop. It was like anti-Wizard of Oz in that regard. How everything in Wizard of Oz is Technicolor, bright, and just like you can't help but just be glued to the screen because it's so attention-grabbing. But I couldn't focus on any one detail in that specific scene.
Yeah, and it's I don't know who to blame for it because it's one of those like they shot it outdoors obviously and they tried to light it as best they could. So it's just kind of a weird sequence. Like I know that area. I've been to that courtyard before. So it's a real place. It's not like it's a set. I mean, obviously they dressed it, but it's obviously a real place. So it's just kind of interesting that, like, if this is how they wanted to do it, the execution was just like, I'm still just baffled. Having watched it again, like, how fucking long did that scene go on?
I mean, it was a Broadway play before it was a movie.
Sure.
So maybe there was some deal that was made that they had to have the entirety of every song in the film. And even though maybe...
It's a shitty deal, man.
Yeah, maybe the songs worked better on stage, but they just felt dragged out.
And not all the songs. Like, there's a few that I like. I mean, I love the entire sequence. And it goes on for a long time. Really long shot.
Yeah.
But the first sequence with Ease on Down the Road, I love the whole thing.
Oh, that... For me, it basically, the larger the group, the longer it felt like it dragged on to me.
I would agree with the exception of I forget what her name is in this movie, but the Wicked Witch of the West. I liked all that.
Eveline?
Like, yeah, Eveline. Like, I thought all of that was great. I thought everything from their costumes when they were being slaves to them being free and naked and just celebrating being human. I thought all of that was just gorgeous, really well shot, and just a lot of fun. I liked all of that.
I enjoyed everything about it, except for me, it was too long.
Yeah. Like, at this point, I was already used to everything
layers.
being so long. But then when we finally get to Eveline and just that whole thing, I was like, by the time they're breaking out of their skin, I'm just like, okay, we're still here.
I thought the breaking the skin was fun.
And I just thought it was pretty. I just thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
I thought that the
it
cinematography does not wow me throughout the entire movie. It did in that sequence. I thought all of everything with Eveline I thought was just awesome. I thought she was great. I thought the costumes were great. I thought the lack of costumes were great. Especially I liked that when they're stripping down to nothing and just feel like just celebrating being human, and they're basically naked as the movie would let them be.
Yeah.
The women are basically in very skimpy bikini-esque things. The men are basically in thongs.
Yeah.
And it's just
you actually see more man butt in that than you do.
Oh yeah, and it was just such a great celebration of freedom, and I enjoyed it because of that. So even
and the
though
choreography of that dance scene was amazing.
Oh yeah, like I could just get into all of it, and like I know it's overstaying its welcome, and we're tired, and we've been sitting in this thing for 2 hours, and it's like, how does it still have 15 fucking minutes in it? But I was enjoying that. I still had fun with that.
Yeah.
But the larger quantity of all of this is to talk. The editing is. I keep saying there is no editing, and I guess I should explain that. The Cindy Lumet and whoever else helped make this, they really treated it like that stage production. They basically set up a huge number, set the camera as far away as possible so it could still see who's who on screen, plopped it down, and let the scene happen. So if the scene is 5 minutes, that's essentially what you get, is like a 5-minute shot. And every now and then there'll be a cut, like maybe a punch into Michael Jackson or something like that. But for the most part, it's pretty long takes throughout the entire 2.5 hour movie, 2 hour, 15-minute movie. So the editing just doesn't call attention to itself in the way that it had in, say, the other Dede Allen movies that we've done, where she can really match tension and scene and move the story along with this kind of like master stroke of like knowing what's important when it's important. This movie did not allow her to do really any of that. And that was mostly because of, I think, the way they wanted to present the film as this sort of stage, big, bombastic musical, which just isn't made nowadays. Nowadays, half those dancers would be CGI.
They would be.
If not 2/3, if not 3/4, 7/8. They'd all be CGI.
Tin Man maybe be CGI. I don't know.
I don't know.
I loved the costumes in this movie.
Especially the Tin Man and the Lion. Fucking great.
Lion looked amazing.
Lion
amazing
so
costumes.
Loved his wig so much.
But anything else we should say about the editor before we move away? Because I know that is the reason that we even watched this movie was the editor, and there's so little to say. It's not her fault, but it's just unfortunate for our Dede Allen month that we get very little to say about Dede Allen in this movie.
It is a very interesting contrast versus the other movies we've seen. Just especially since I got into a habit with those movies, not really a habit, but a rhythm. That she had a very specific rhythm through Bonnie and Clyde, Dog Day Afternoon. For me, the Missouri Breaks. Just there was this building, rising tension that had a release, and this was just kind of didn't have that at all. It was just kind of a steady weight, like a bobbing on the water sort of feel. Like just, okay, next thing, okay, down, up and then down. Like we're kind of in this lull. It's a very different feel from her other movies.
I don't know if it would have been because of the way they shot it. She had limited things to edit with.
Very little coverage.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't get your editor options, you're going to end up with kind of a boring edit.
Yeah, and that's what I meant earlier when I think it's partially how Sidney Lumet wanted the movie to feel. And I think they probably established a really good working relationship on Dog Day Afternoon, so of course he hired her for this. And it's just, she's one of the greatest editors ever to edit, so it's unfortunate that they gave her a movie that required so little of it.
I mean, she's still...
Yeah, and it's tough because it's also a
yeah.
musical, too. It's also a musical, and those... You have to decide early on if you're editing to continuity or to theme, and that's a lot harder of a thing to do when you don't have a lot of footage.
Yeah. And if you don't have a lot of footage, it's really hard to cut on rhythm. And that's kind of like you go back to, it's not a musical, but you go to say Baby Driver, and they edited to the rhythm of every song. Cuts match the beat every fucking time. And this movie, you couldn't really do that because there's nothing to cover. And it's also huge spectacle numbers with tons and tons of dancers. We're talking 50, 60, 100 people dancing, all perfectly choreographed. If you go in too close, you're going to miss that effect of just how many people are there.
There was definitely a lot more edits in the crow sequence than there were in the larger sequences. Because they were able to focus on there was 4 crows? Or
4 crows, I think,
yeah.
And then Michael Jackson up on the sticks, yeah.
So especially when Michael Jackson was singing his song about staying where you are or whatever, she did a lot. I actually was more invested in that dance sequence because I got to see more parts of the crows, I guess. And they weren't just lost in the muck.
And as she kind of edited around everything that's happening, you felt more engaged. Whereas the rest of the movie, you kind of feel like a fly on the wall. And again, I think that was intentional. I think this was supposed to feel like a stage sort of thing, and that's how you are in a theater. So it makes sense. It's just... And
that was the only sequence where she was editing it kind of from Dorothy's perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she's hiding in that during that one. The rest of them, Dorothy's directly involved.
I will say there was one scene where I think Dede Allen got to shine a little bit, and it's in the subway when they're being chased by those puppets, and then the columns break off the wall and come after her. The way that thing was shot, and I felt some of her style and her quick edits and things like that. I felt that in that sequence, so I was a lot more invested there in terms of just this is moving forward, this is action-y, kind of catching my attention again.
Yeah, for sure.
And it had the wonderful sequence of, if I was ever in a freaking subway tunnel and a dude looking like that came down the stairs, I'm fucking out. I'm not going to wait to see what he's doing.
To see what nightmare puppets he launches after you. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I noped out after hearing him the first time in the movie. I was like, nope. No,
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's everything we can really say about Dede Allen, let's talk about the movie itself. When we started with costumes, and was there anything else that we kind of hit the lion and the Tin Man? Well, more so the lion. Tin Man in this movie, don't get me wrong, Wizard of Oz, beautiful movie, one of the best ever made. Tin Man, kind of boring costume.
Yeah.
This movie, oh boy, he looks awesome.
Well, he's more like a vaudeville thing. He's supposed to be a carny.
Yeah.
And his biggest vice is that he's always attracted to the wrong women.
Teeny.
And I'm like...
You stole my quote.
Was he crying because he missed her or because she abused him? I really couldn't tell.
I don't know. I love that part later in the movie where they're trying to wake him up with water. Here, wake her up. Think about Teeny. Teeny.
Yeah, I don't know. And he cried. That's a beautiful moment of makeup right there.
Yeah.
Whatever little tubes they had to
pour water out of his eyes.
Out of his eyes like that. That's just nuts.
That was pretty cool.
And he probably had to lean his head in exactly the right way for it to not squirt him in the eye.
Yeah, no, it's something that's kind of neat about this story in general. I know there's not too many iterations, and a lot of other versions of The Wizard of Oz are all in kind of pop culture references, but a fun thing is who each of the people are, like the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion, and just that reveal. My favorite reveal in this is of the Tin Man, just the setup, the gag, the teeny, and even the dancing number after it as they fill them, they get the oil in them. Get a little bit of oil in me,
Oh yeah.
Like that whole section was just so like raw and imaginative. It just like might be my favorite section in the whole movie, just for the
all of the moments featuring the characters by themselves. I was more invested in those musical moments than I was in the big grand ones, I think.
Yeah, I think
personally,
each intro was just fantastic. The crows with Scarecrow is awesome. The entire Tin Man sequence is great. And I even like the lion sequence. It's a little bit more like subtle, not subtle, but it's not quite as bombastic as Tin Man or Scarecrow. But I like him jumping out of the stone lion. Like I like that he's like both cowardly and brave at the same time.
I just love the part when they're like, "That lion's checking us out."
The eyes are like following him with a dart back.
Wait,
no, I'm not. That's pretty good. But yeah, I think all those moments are great. I think all their costumes are great. I think everything with the main 4 characters is just fantastic. My only problem with Diana Ross is beyond. I mean, Diana Ross is fantastic.
Being 34 and pretending to be 24.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, honey. You don't look like you're 24.
She didn't look 24. But it's fine and whatever. It's Diana Ross.
It was just a momentary confusion at the beginning where it's like, you got to get out of the house because you're 24. And I'm like, yeah, no.
What?
No,
what
you're
did
not.
You do?
You've had a rough 24 years. The weird thing that I thought with Diana Ross in this movie, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, I didn't think they really let her sing too much until like the end. Like Diana Ross is known for her voice. She has an amazing voice, and it felt really kind of like handcuffed until like the last maybe 2 songs of hers, where she was really able to like be Diana Ross.
Well, she's supposed to be more confident as
the movie goes on. I get that.
Yeah. That's
But so is Dorothy in the original, and she gets somewhere over the rainbow right out of the gate.
Yeah, no, like she doesn't have that beginning, like she doesn't have a really strong beginning song like in the original. Her end song is great and just bombastic and huge and big and just unleashed,
and just so beautifully sung. Like she does such a good job with it.
Just real quick, at the end, when what?
You just moved your nose piercing on the outside of your nose, and then moved your nose, and it went back in your nose. That was so weird looking.
You've never seen that before?
Never move on its own.
I still haven't seen it, so we're good.
But when the Wiz, Richard Pryor, comes up to her after she gets back from killing Eveline, and he goes, "Dorothy, I have something to ask you." Does he actually ask her anything? Because it felt like she shut him down right away.
I honestly don't remember. I was, to be totally honest, I was kind of checked out during the Richard Pryor scene, and it was definitely like, Richard Pryor, I love Richard Pryor. Then she was like, oh yeah, do you remember that story of how he threw a naked woman out of his hotel room? I'm like, oh yeah, he was an asshole. Fucking Richard Pryor. Yeah. And then sitting there like all kind of bitter, just totally ignoring the scene.
The Me Too era kind of ruined Richard Pryor for me, because like people shared so many stories of different people in the past, and got a lot of info of Richard Pryor I didn't know about, and I was just like,
yeah, and it's just the ending scene with him doesn't land. Just
oh no.
But that's what I mean. I'm like, he comes up to her very sincerely, and it's like I got something to ask you, or can you do this for me, Dorothy? And I don't remember if he actually gets to ask her what, because I feel like she just shuts him down immediately, which I was just like, well, that's kind of cold there, Dorothy.
I'm kind of fine with it. He had to go fucking murder somebody for him.
He was kind of angling. I think they were trying to get it to like make him the mirror of what Dorothy used to be in the beginning of the movie, and she was like, you got to go out on your own, kind of making her give the message that she needed to learn. But again, none of that's landing because
I guess
I don't care about this Wiz guy.
For him because she has an out. Someone gave her slippers that she gets to clink a couple times and go home. It sounds like Richard Pryor's just felt super trapped his whole time in Oz, and yeah, he's being a jerk pretending to be something he's not, but what's his other option?
Not building a metal head that shoots fire.
But what would he do otherwise? Just wither and die? Like
I feel like there's a lot of gray area between metal head that shoots fire, wither and die.
Yeah, it's true. But I don't know. The way they showed him, he seemed trapped to me as well.
Sure, yeah. No, absolutely.
Like, he didn't look like he was enjoying his life at all.
No, because he secluded himself. Yeah. I think what he asked was, can we just hang out and talk for a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, that's what he
Yeah.
Oh
asked.
my god, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Him just wanting to reach out to someone that's from his world.
Yeah.
Like, he
Well,
could commit suicide after this. Because
Yeah.
he's just been rejected by the only person that could possibly understand him.
Probably. But like the movie also tips his hand early. Like after they leave the whiz, he peeks his head through the eye and looks like, oh, like they reveal that he's a fraud early on.
Well, we all know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's.
But
just
even
kind
though
of
we
a
know,
victim of
even though we
like-
know that, it's still like having that, not that reveal, just kind of pull the carpet out under that reveal. I don't know. I think contributes to the fact that he's just like his whole scene at the end is just a wet thud. Like,
I don't think it had anything to do with the tipping the hat earlier. Maybe it did for you. Maybe it's a case to case thing. Because for me, it was just like, oh well, I know he is. Like I know he's the fake.
It's like, I feel like everyone knows that before they even see
Yeah.
the movie or read the books now.
I think the difference is like when you go to the original Wizard of Oz, when we find out the wizard is kind of a chump, it's still like, yeah, I'm a chump, but I also want to help. Like I can't do everything I said I can, but I can still do something. Like here's a diploma. Look, you have a brain. Look how smart you are. I can't give you a heart, but I can give you this thing that still ticks like a heart. Like he tries to help, whereas this one's just
he
like,
doesn't seem like a scared, sad man.
yeah. And then this one
Yeah.
is like, I'm a scared, sad, lonely man, and I'm a total fucking liar, and I have no interest in helping you whatsoever. In fact, you just kind of knocked off my only rival to make sure that nobody ever wants to hurt me.
yeah, there's
that's
all
I'm
that.
doing.
And also in the original, he's the one that tells the Tin Man, "You don't need a heart because you always had one." Scarecrow, you already had the brain. You know, Lion, you were always brave. Like he had that role of bestowing, like revealing that. They gave it to Dorothy, which I thought was interesting, but again, it just makes everything else with the Wiz just not work. He's not
it's
needed in that capacity at the end.
Yeah, by giving everything to Dorothy, it kind of undercut the entire purpose of the
Wiz.
wizard.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I guess. It's kind of like the same thing with like the Wicked Witch of the West. Like we didn't really get anything from her until her sequence. Like whereas in like the original, she's all over the fucking thing.
She's got screen time. She has lines and everything.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's a minor change, and honestly, I think it kind of works better for it in this one, specifically with the witch, not with the wizard. But it is just kind of nice seeing how they did it different, not necessarily in a bad way, except for the wizard. But the other things I kind of enjoyed still.
I didn't get the sympathy I have for the Wicked Witch of the West at all in this one.
How do you have sympathy for the Wicked Witch of the
Because
West?
she's sad that her sister's dead. Yeah, she's overreacting, but Dorothy did kill her sister.
Dorothy did nothing. She was in the house. She didn't throw the house at the woman.
Yeah. When you're
I mean, as far as you know,
rational.
propaganda, she might have been, she has a good PR department.
Yeah.
But I mean, but like in the original, when they pour the water on the Wicked Witch of the West and it's like melting, after a while you're like, wow, did they just overkill it? Like, did they, like, you feel kind of bad a little bit? I mean, how else would you get wicked, right? Like, you feel bad for the witch. Whereas this, like, yeah, no, she got what she needed. She got what she deserved.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because
Move on.
she's running a sweatshop in
Yeah.
this movie, so she definitely sucks. I don't remember the Wicked Witch actually really particularly doing anything wicked other than trying to get Dorothy in the original movie.
Yeah, so this one's better. I agree. I really like the Wicked Witch of the West in this movie. I think she's really cool. I like her costume.
Yeah.
I like her. I love the way that she sits down on her throne with this like leg up and then plop. Like I liked everything
She has a lot
about
of
her.
control over that big dress.
I loved her physicality. I just loved everything about her. Like that was like, I'm a really, really big fan of everything there. It's about it. Nah, I like the whole movie, but that's the only part that I love.
Yeah.
I like the whole thing. I love that. I love everything from like her torturing the guys. Like I love her torturing Scarecrow. Like I'm gonna cut him in half. It's like, oh, it's okay, Dorothy. I don't really feel anything. He's just messing with my filing system. It's like, I love that.
Or like the Tin Man, like, I have nothing inside. I'm empty inside. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
And oh my god, the fact that they're able to fix the Tin Man after he was flattened, impressive. Especially because all she asked for is a hammer and a crowbar. She fixed a working metal man with a hammer and a crowbar. Like that takes fucking talent.
She's a
man.
teacher. She knows
Yeah.
things.
I don't remember having a line. He just kind of got hung by his tail, right?
Yeah.
Chewie's miming that she fell asleep during that moment, and I'm just gonna out her because she fell asleep during that moment.
It was late.
Yeah, no, don't watch this movie when it's late or you're tired.
I don't know. I think it's no.
Blame
It
it
really.
on Corona.
No, I'm gonna blame it on the color scene.
Oh,
Man.
yeah,
Yeah.
the color scene really killed me.
That color scene, like
Oh,
not to circle back
Once
to
it
something.
got to gold, I was so like, I don't care.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse or anything, but man, if I've ever seen a scene in a movie that just grinds an entire thing to a halt, it was nothing compared to this.
Ugh, it was. I can't stress enough how
You
tough
really could've
that
cut
scene
it
was
out.
to get through.
It's like,
The whole thing could have gone. Whole thing, just lift and
Yeah.
lift and delete. Like just,
Yeah.
why is it here?
yeah, I don't know.
Which is weird because it has good elements in it, like the people-sized cameras and microphones walking around.
Oh, I did like
the,
that.
The designs are so cool, and the costumes are just like you expect there to be more with those costumes, and the choreography even was interesting. Just the camera wasn't in on that, or the lighting, or anything like that.
Or the editing, or the goddamn music. I'd never be caught dead. Red. Oh my god.
Was it like seen in green, and then what was the gold one? Like the thread of the
I don't
rhyming
know.
lost me.
I don't know.
It was just, you know what it felt like? And this is going to be a weird dig at a book that most people consider the classic. It felt like reading Alice in Wonderland again. Like, just reading, going, what the fuck are you saying, Lewis Carroll, whatever the fuck your name is?
He's saying he really liked his one friend's young daughter, so they decided to write a book about it. And now, when you think about it, it's super creepy.
You just ruined Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No!
Oh. A lot of people say he's a pervert.
Yeah, of course he is. I just thought he really liked chess and didn't know how to write about it.
'Twas thrilling in the brilly cove.
I mean, he might have. But he also liked his
Oh.
friend's daughter.
That just makes the porn one even more creepy. Well, the porn one's actually a
think it
pretty
was
good
a daughter.
interpretation of the
I
movie.
don't remember.
Like, if you ever feel like just having a really weird afternoon, watch the porn Alice in Wonderland. It's a musical, and it's really fucking weird. I saw it in a theater.
Alice Pleasance Hargreaves was, in her childhood, an acquaintance and photography subject of Lewis Carroll.
Oh,
Oh, great.
why did you have
Okay.
to say subject?
Because that's what the Wikipedia says.
I'm so uncomfortable right now. Let's go back to the Wiz, where everything is just not uncomfortable. Or weird or creepy at all.
Sorry.
It's a weird episode we got here.
Tangents.
Tangents.
You know, it's the quarantine.
It's the quarantine.
It's
also
made us
just
weird.
It's also just that this movie's kind of a hard one to talk about because, you know, just to put it out there, this movie wasn't really made for us.
No.
We're three white people sitting here talking about a movie.
3 white people in 2020
Yeah.
trying to... We have no reference for being black
No.
in the 70s.
Nope, none whatsoever. So like, there's probably a shit ton of references in this movie that just go right over our heads. There's a lot of like I have friends who this movie just means the world to them because of Diana Ross as Dorothy, and I get that. She was great. I thought she was fantastic in this movie. It doesn't speak to me the same way that it would.
Every time I would watch her jumping around and dancing on those heels, I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah, like it might not mean the same to me that it did to my friends who saw this when they were younger, but I can still appreciate she was fucking incredible in this
Yeah.
movie. Like incredible. All the dancing in her heels, the way that she ran in those heels.
It did make me wonder, like, she's not bad at acting in
No.
this movie at all. I'm like, I don't remember really seeing her in anything else ever.
And for that matter, neither was Michael Jackson.
No.
Like he was decent throughout the whole movie,
I remember Michael Jackson being considered a decent actor.
but he didn't do it that much. I mean, granted, he's the king of pop.
He
He
could do
didn't have
whatever
to,
he want.
but
He didn't
yeah.
feel like it.
Yeah, no, it's now like since you've mentioned that it wasn't for us and all that. While watching this, I could still tell that there was a lot of special stuff happening on the screen, which you know we've been digging at it, but seeing Diana Ross as the main character as Dorothy and singing and finally like having her song at the end, having all these characters, just it felt special. And maybe it's cheesy and outsidery to say that, but like at the same time, I could sense, I could feel it as an outsider to this
Yeah, and there's
like
something,
presentation.
and it speaks to the quality of the movie that even though we are clearly not the target demographic for this at all, we can still appreciate it and still see how good it was. And like that says, I think that speaks volumes for the movie, for the people in it, for Dede Allen. I'll just throw that one in there because that's what we're here for. But it does just speak volumes to everything about it. That this movie that was never intended to be watched by just a bunch of nerds in their 30s in 2020 still can resonate and still have these powerful moments. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, and it's weird because I read when I was reading up on this film after watching it, I read that it was a critical and commercial failure, and that was actually a surprise. Speaking to just watching the movie and being like, this isn't exactly for me, but this is special. This feels big.
This
But,
movie
like-
came out after Star Wars, and I feel like Star Wars really changed what people were looking for.
It's a mixture of it changed like what people are looking for and the just sticking on the editor train. It changed how we pace movies.
Yeah.
Star Wars changed the game
Yeah.
in so many ways. But if we start picking up on the Star Wars mode of editing and mode of pacing and storytelling and whatnot, and then you go to The Wiz where everything is plotting and it takes its time and it lets every scene have its weight, for better or worse, fucking color scene. Like,
Well, it's the stage. It's the stage on
Yeah.
screen.
absolutely. And like that's just like it's just such a different take on a movie.
I would really like to see this as a stage production. I think I'd have a ton of fun.
Oh,
After watching
same.
this, I want to watch the made for TV. I think it was with Queen Latifah. I
Yeah.
want to say was in it. I want to watch that one. Like I want to see the people who grew up loving this movie and loving the show and the music and all of it. I want to see like where they came from and like see how that came out because like there's something here obviously, or we wouldn't still be talking about it now. And even though there are scenes that rub us the wrong way or way overstay their welcome, it's still a fun thing to watch. And that's why like last week when we're gonna watch The Wiz, I'm like, I'm so excited for you guys to see The Wiz, and I had forgotten about like I'm so excited for the cool parts and oh my god, the slow parts. I just kind of forgot about them over time. Which again speaks volumes to the good parts.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said too, like as a brief addition, Joel Schumacher did the screenplay for this.
Yeah.
I saw that name pop up and I was like, wait, hold, like this whole movie, I swear to God, it was like this person was involved. This person was involved.
He wrote
This
the
person was
screenplay,
involved?
but he didn't write the play, so
No.
he's just adapting it.
Yeah.
And he put nips on Batman. So
You know what?
what?
Leave
What?
it alone on that.
He put nips on Batman. I'm not forgetting
Leave the
what
bat
was-
nips alone.
was-
Leave the bat nips alone.
Notes with that. I don't think that was expressly his decision. All the crotch shots might have been his decision.
I'm here for the butt shots. They did a good job
Lots
with
of
the butt
butt
shots.
and lots of crotch, and oh my goodness, let's watch that movie next.
Which one are we talking about? Because there's a good one and there's a bad one.
Let's watch the good one.
Okay.
I really like. I stand by it. Val Kilmer's a fun.
Okay,
Bruce
I
Wayne
was gonna say,
Batman.
are we gonna clarify which one of the Schumacher ones is the good or the bad?
We-
Because
we
everyone
should have left it-
know.
Jim Carrey was a very good Riddler.
We should have left it a mystery for the audience. Which one did Chewie say?
I like it.
Chewie just said that Jim Carrey was a good Riddler.
I thought he was.
He was a great villain in the movie. That's not the Riddler.
Yeah, fine.
That's
No.
not the Riddler.
Okay.
That's the Riddler.
He looked
Hey,
good
even-
in the outfit.
Even I know he's not a great Riddler. Jeez.
No, my favorite Riddler now is the Riddler from the Harley Quinn animated series.
That's a good Riddler. It's like everything from the Harley Quinn animated series is great. I now have a new favorite King Shark. I have a new favorite Clayface.
We're really off the rails now.
we are.
I think we should wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Let's go to our favorite sequence. I've already kind of hinted at mine, and unfortunately has very little to do with Dede Allen. But it's after she's finally met up with Scarecrow, and he's on his. Everyone kind of gets two songs, which is too much.
Right.
Like I said, movie kind of overstays the welcome a little bit. But his second song is "Ease on Down the Road," and I love that song outside of this movie. I love it in this movie, and the first time they do it, where they have this huge fucking set with this big backdrop behind it that shows how far the Yellow Brick Road goes down, and they have this big fucking dance sequence of just her and Scarecrow, and their arms are in the air, they're waving, he's doing his patented like spin move where he spins on his flat foot, and he's doing that all over the place, and it's just like they are so excited, and they just have
Yeah.
so much energy, and
They
they're
had
just
great
so
chemistry
up.
together.
Oh my god, they did. The four of them had great chemistry throughout, and but that sequence, like even now, like I just get excited about it. Like it's just so much fun to hear it and to see it, and just I love that so much of it is facing away from camera, which is a very bold choice, especially when you have a star like Diana Ross and Michael Jackson at 20 years old, whose star is just beginning to shoot out into the stratosphere and do this entire huge number away from camera. That's impressive as fuck, and it paid off, and it worked, and it was great. That's my favorite moment in the movie.
I like the Tin Man's first song. Like, I mean, I'm a sucker for a tap dance.
Sure.
But I thought his voice was great. I loved everything about it.
Yeah.
I'm not as detailed about it as you, I guess. But
That's fine.
It's, really
It's a
good.
good
I like
moment. It's a great moment. Like, you're spot on. John, what about you?
I actually like the scene in the beginning where she arrives to Oz, crushes Evermean, the Wicked Witch of the East, and then like frees the Munchkins, who were turned into graffiti along the walls. There was just something about how like the lighting was low, and they were peeling off the wall, and there was like this very interesting, creepy vibe that I was really kind of on board with. And a lot of some of those creepier elements with like the puppeteer, like the crazy peddler guy, like those elements really grabbed me. But because of that first part, I was just like, oh, this is kind of creepy. I like it. I'm digging this vibe.
Yeah. We didn't really talk that much about the Munchkin Land part, but I really do enjoy that sequence. I love the physicality of all the extras in that is just great. They all have this kind of like rigid, like almost like robot-esque, like I was stuck in a wall forever, but look at me now. I thought it was cool. You can't really mimic in a podcast, but
No, you can't.
Chewie got to experience it.
I did.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a no.
It was kind of like jazz hands, but with your elbows.
Yeah.
That's a very accurate.
I'm not at all going to explain what that is, but I do like jazz elbows. Just kind of do the chicken dance. Oh
Yeah.
boy. So if that's
our new dance. That's a new podcast dance. The jazz elbows. Whoa.
jazz elbows. I'm not sure if any of that
You're
came
gonna
through.
poke out someone's eye.
So if this is The Wiz, what double feature are we going to sit down for with The Wiz? One caveat.
Okay.
Cannot be Wizard of Oz. I didn't know if those would be your answers, but let's think outside the box.
Well, I'm gonna go with a recent thing that I also sat down and watched and went, wow, the dancing, the singing in this is great, but I don't understand what's going on, and I'm a little weirded out. Cats.
That was going to be mine.
Oh, I took it.
Not anymore, though.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
But a good pairing with this would be Cats. Cats, the storyline is not as good. No, the plot in Cats is terrible.
You can stop saying the plot when talking about cats, because there is none.
The plot in The Wiz is way better, but still it will have sequences in both where you're like, wait, what's going on?
What's happening? They can all dance really well, but what's happening?
Yeah.
By the way, Cats is now available for purchase on VOD, and I highly recommend that everyone listening go out and purchase it, because it's amazing.
Oh my god, honey.
I already bought it. I bought it this morning. We're recording this on St. Patrick's Day. I already own the movie, and it's great. It's so good. You know what? Fuck it. Mine will also be Cats, because everyone should watch Cats. Cats is awesome, and The Wiz is awesome. And I honestly think The Wiz is significantly better than Cats. I'm not completely insane. The Wiz has lasted for years, and Cats will last until like next week. It might make it to rental. We don't know. But you know, they would be a really fun movie to watch together.
Yeah.
I just don't know which one to watch first.
Cats.
But Cats is still 2 hours long. You'll be a little tired at the end, and then
You'll
you'll
be
get
tired,
but
but
then you get to the color sequence, and then they can end up like you and fall asleep, and that's not good.
Yeah, but at least
Start these movies at noon.
Yeah, I started moving that
get some like decent like plot to exercise your brain after the assault of cats.
But also, like, in general, you want to put the more energetic film to end the night, right? Because if you have a longer film or a slower film, like
Cats ends with a terrible song.
Oh my god.
That you.
Oh.
Really, if I had to choose, I think I'd do the color thing again versus over
the dog song.
Over the song about not being a dog. Yeah.
Oh my god, that was just pulling teeth, and I love that movie.
Yeah.
But that last song is rough.
It really is.
John, what about you?
I'm gonna go for something like, if I had seen this when I was younger as a kid, I wish I would have seen this with a similar movie that I saw, Alice in Wonderland from 1985, which is funny that you mentioned Alice in Wonderland earlier.
85, the porno version?
No.
The porno
is-
version was in the 70s.
Was it in the 70s?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right. Now, the like, you've got Red Buttons as the White Rabbit, and there's just, it has that same sense of strange and weird costuming that all in on the goofiness of it that, The Wiz also does with its costuming and choreography and all that. They feel of a very similar type, and they're also very long. This Alice in Wonderland is like 3 hours and 7 minutes.
Oh, God.
And
That's too much Alice in Wonderland.
That's so
it is,
long.
but also, like, The Wiz also felt very long too. So, like, you could spend a whole day just watching people having a great time in very strange costumes.
While you're having a pretty good time.
Right. In general,
Except
it
in
was
Cats, they're
okay.
like, you're all naked.
Yeah, Cats is like, I feel like I'm seeing Taylor Swift naked right now, but
Someone animated hair on her boobs.
yeah. Why does that cat have boobs? None of the other cats have boobs, but she's shimmying boobs at us.
No, the other cats had boobs.
Most of them do not. Rebel Wilson does, but I think the rest don't. Not a lot of cat boobs, which is a good thing. I'm not complaining. Cat boobs are weird.
There should have been nipples.
There should have been nipples and anuses all over that movie.
Oh boy.
Maybe we could do
We all know I'm right.
in the quarantine, maybe we can learn how to render that into the movie and then release it as our own version.
Cats, the anus version.
That's part of the Steelbook
No,
release.
It's gonna be like in Bob's Burgers. With
Anuses,
Linda.
anuses, Yeah, that should have been our experience with cats, and it wasn't.
Don't be heinous. Buy the anus version.
It'll be like Batman vs Superman, the director's cut. We're like, oh, you got to see the director's cut. It's actually a good movie, and everyone's like, nah, I saw the original. It's like, you got to see Cats, the anus version. It made it better. I don't know why, but it just felt more real.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Oh,
That would be the catchphrase for that version of Cats.
oh boy.
The Wiz.
So that was The Wiz. I apologize if you listen to this episode hoping for a very big, deep dive on The Wiz. This probably isn't the podcast for you for that sort of thing, especially while we're trying to focus on one person who didn't have a lot to do with this movie.
Yeah.
But we did the best we could. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I hope you did too if you watched it in preparation for this movie. We're going to do a quick round of plugs, and we're going to say goodbye. I will, of course, plug our show, I guess, and our website, athpod.com. I usually would be plugging Venture Bros, but some bad news for the bros out there. Our big finale episode is being put on hold for a little while until we can actually all get together and record in a non-quarantine situation.
We have no idea how long that's going to be.
Who knows when that'll be, but it feels like we should probably hold off on recording that, which of course will then in turn make Frisky Dingo a little bit farther down the road. I'm sorry, I didn't want that to happen, but it feels like
None of us wanted this to happen.
It feels like the right call. So Welcome to You Our Doom is still coming in 2020, just not for a little while, and Venture Brothers won't be ending for a little while either, but it's just on indefinite pause until things get better.
There is a silver lining because the show hasn't ended. Technically, we're not done with Venture Brothers.
True.
So, yeah.
So Venture Bros is still going, kind of, in a way, as in there's no more episodes, but it's not over.
There will be more episodes.
There will be more
at
episodes.
some point
One more episode
in the future.
later. I might do something on that feed. I haven't really decided yet. Like some sort of quarantine cartoons, which is what I was thinking of. Just like, what cartoons are we watching today? And maybe we can just review it. That's kind of what I was thinking. Could be fun. I'm
okay.
not sure what I'll call it. But we'll get there. It might happen. It might not. Who knows? Chewy, what are you plugging?
Superstore.
Woo!
We got shut down.
I heard your season finale was a doozy.
I don't know what it is. Because we didn't get to shoot our last episode. So, it's new to me. As it's going to be new to you. But we got picked up for a 6th season. So, once all this is, settled out, I will be going back. So, please watch Superstore.
Yay!
Woo!
And John?
Yeah, our show Demon Days every week. We're still going strong and having a blast. We'll see how all this badness out there affects everything, but we'll do what we can.
Yeah, all those shows on the ATH network might take a little bit of a hit here and there. Hopefully not this one, because we record this one a little bit different than we do the other one. So this one should still keep trucking along. But the other ones, or required in-person recordings might take a bit of a dive.
Yeah.
But
That's okay.
We're going to do the best we can.
Think positive.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing the best we can. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it will later.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah. Roll with the coughs.
Roll with the fever. And go to bed.
Should we
drink all your fluids.
Should we ease on down?
Ease on down.
Ease on down the road.
Ease on down to your bed. Netflix and chill for a while.
Ease on down. Ease on down the road. I think we should just say goodbye. Bye.
Yeah.
Ease on
Yeah,
down.
bye-bye.
Ease on down.
Ease on
the
down.
road.
Ease on
Bye.
down the road. Bye.
See you later, bozos.